new Patreon subscribers. We'll start the dollar Swiss because we had an idea that we were going to have a weekly open to SLC trade opportunity, but we also had the Powell testimony, and that really pumped dollar pairs all across the board. And what's happened now is that the odds of a 50 basis point hike is a lot greater than a 25 basis point hike in 24 hour. So in the period of 1 day, we've completely superseded the 25 basis point expectation, and now it's a much greater chance of a 50 basis point hike in the space of a day. We've got another Powell testimony later at 5 o'clock, so you've got to be aware of that. And our trade was a break of monthly pivot for 10 pips to target SLC, and it was going to be a 4-hour trade. And now if you had taken it and you placed an order, you would have got out of a 10 pip loss, because your monthly pivot was your line in the sand level, and that was going to be your stop loss, 93.05. Okay, so it's like a 10-12 pip stop, not to worry. And of course we had some monthly pivot support, and we had the Powell testimony, so it was like a double whammy for that. SLC above is at 94.51, and the one below is higher, 92.80, and it was down here because we were trying to probe it yesterday, but of course the trade didn't materialize, but that's fine. Probably SLC, I'm thinking, because we're fairly close, 94.50, 26 pips away, possible. And then we'll come and get that for the Powell testimony, have some technical resistance, and then maybe down here, then for a bounce for NFP. So up, rate stops, technical resistance, down. And we'll probably close the week above the weekly open because of those fundamentals, and the this as well. This has increased substantially in 24 hours. It's the probability of a 50 basis point hike is a lot greater than the 25 basis point hike, and that had basically reversed in the space of a day. So that's the dollar Swiss. I think probably there, technical resistance and down. Let's look at gold. Yeah, that's fine. That's just for me to do my meter readings for energy supply. So we've got two back-to-back sells. You can see the institutional sellers, and we made a box, so that was quite spooky. And we made another one here, and so this should be a decent resistance. We are a sell at the big picture. However, the profitable traders are long, but we might get an interchange. So I think this is going to be a decent resistance at 18.15. We're going to take that stop loss cluster. Strong resistance here. And I'm guessing we'll probably come and get the SLC below, and then we might have a nice bounce. We have exceeded the weekly ATR by a lot, and but we have to remember things can exceed your weekly ATR. The dollar yen did it for weeks on end, and it kept pumping higher and it kept pumping higher, and then the BOJ had to intervene, and then it fell finally. But what happened is that it was exceeding weekly ATR after week. It really pumped on the volatility, so possible that it might just ignore the your ATR target for a short. We started the week here. That's a job done. That's a big move. So but we've gone beyond the weekly ATR, and we're here. So it's quite tricky. I would say personally that this is going to be a resistance, and then we're going to come down and take the SLC below. And then it should reset the sentiment a little bit. And it's quite difficult to say because we've exceeded the HR target, but we've got the fundamental force of the 50 basis point hike increase from yesterday. Of course, if they do that and they're going to be more aggressive, then gold's going to suffer. So I think probably SLC looks very likely above, one below, and then we'll be perhaps in this box. And I don't know if we're going to be closed in the weekly open parameters within that box. We might close below, but it's hard to say. So we are a sell at the big picture, and if we look at these guys, what they're doing, see the MyFX book is selling slightly, so that might be an an indication that it might continue. If they continue to sell it, then we will probe this box, and then we can be above the weekly ATR target for a short 1826. So possible this is going to be a scenario where they're going to reduce those volumes, and it's going to make it a buy over time. We can look at the bubble, and you can see how they're selling gold. By selling gold, it should push price higher on the daily. They're also long yen, they're long New Zealand dollar. So it's very, very tricky. Technical resistance, sentimentally, it might be telling us that it's going to be a buy. So perhaps look for a long above the ATR target for a short to target the weekly open, maybe. I'd probably just sit on my hands in this one. So I think maybe SLC, this one potentially, and then it will really encourage them to short if we fall to get the SLC. That's probably what's going to happen. So I think down, then up, I think. And then it should encourage this line to come down even stronger, and then it'll be a trap at 1800. We've got to remember the 200 EMA is at 1802, so that's going to be a good support. So grab that, bounce, and then it will encourage them to short, and then we might even be a buy next week. So this could be like a trap mechanic that they want to, to ensnare people there. So up, down, up, I think. Let's look at, well, look at EU, I suppose. And monthly pivot was always there. Remember, we've got a bearish bias below the monthly pivot. Big move. Where's your interesting? So you've got SLC ATR target short 105.15, 105.19 SLC, one above 107.05. So the breach of weekly open to target SLC. You can see how we got one, and the new one is down there. So it's like liquidation, and possibly another liquidation. You can see in my FX book they're selling it, which kind of makes sense that they would, because they're looking at price action. We're below the supports, or we were below the support. Yeah, they're probably thinking that we're below that support, we'll sell it. Right? So we could be doing like a rounding thing, like gold. See how they're selling it over time. Could be really tricky. So it could be a good long with a stop. You can even have a stop at ATR target short. It's 30 pips stop. But as long as if your stop is 30 pips, then you need to ensure your TP is at least 30 pips. It should be greater. It needs to be double, ideally, for a 2R trade. Yeah, so keep an eye on that. And I'll send to the guys in the Discord, you want to be keeping an eye on your dollar bubble. It is moving. It is moving. We were over here. Alright, so if it does do this, then it's going to tell us that the dollar is going to soften. And right, so this move here is helping that dollar bubble move away from its extreme. So if it continues, which I think it might, then this is going to be a bottom for the EU. Right? Be careful. Look at AU. It's a slightly longer video than I anticipated, so we will just look at AU and then dollar yen, I guess. See what's happening. We've got a rounding effect. ATR target short we've exceeded. One below 65.60 and 68. So yeah, it all depends on that dollar bubble, really. And this could be a bottom. It could be a decent long, because you've got your monthly support 65.64. But like I say, if your stop's going to be wide like that, you need at least a 1R, a 2R ideally. So could be a good long, because we've got the monthly support 1 SLC combination. We've exceeded the ATR target, and we can see the dollar bubble is moving. Alright, so Aussie is over here though, so we have to be really careful. So ideally you'd want that to move and then that to move as well. So currently it's looking a bit hairy, looking a bit iffy for AU long. But however, if they move, then that'll be a good sign for an AU long. All right. And they've got power testimony as well, so he's going to skew things. So currently, got to watch the bubbles. And let's finish up with the dollar yen. We really pumped, didn't we? One above, 138, one below, 137.25. There's your A2 target long. So could be always a place to enter. Your stop could be there potentially, but like I was saying, you'd be fighting the US yields. You've got a 22 pip stop. Yeah, so we've got a 50, 60 pip. So you could get a 2R trade in that, 2.5R trade. If you're looking to short there, stop here, TP. But you'd be fighting a beast basically. You don't really want to be selling it. You can see how technically strong we are. Zoom out. It's crazy because it's almost like that's what they want you to do. They want you to sell it, so then it can just push price higher. Just bear in mind that the ATO target long is there, but we can exceed it, like I was saying earlier. And so that's the trouble. You have to remember to zoom out, and they probably want you to sell it so they can crush you and take your stops, right? So it might ignore the ATO target long, and gold might ignore it as well. But we have to remember on gold and AU, we're seeing like a rounding effect here. All right, so getting that SLC below on gold will seal the deal, and it will really encourage them to short, and then it'll be a trap, I think, at 1800 or a breach of 1800, and then they'll really get engaged and they'll get really bearish. So be careful. And like I was saying in the Discord video, I'm out this week, so I'm just going to be sitting on my hands. Might be tempted to take a trade on Friday, potentially, I'm not sure, but I need to stick to my rules. And my rules are is that once I've hit a certain percentage loss of my account, then I take a small break, and then I'm back for the following week. I was trying to build some positions on Aussie, and it was the combination of RBA and we had some statement from the ECB, and they were talking about 50 basis point hikes, and my position was on the Euro Aussie, and it's just a combination of two fundamental drivers going against me, and it meant I had a loss on the Euro Oz. So I'm going to give that particular currency pair a break, and I'm also going to avoid the Kiwi as well, because that had basically ricocheted on the bubbles, and it was very, very choppy. So be careful. I think what's going to happen is we'll probably come down potentially and get that stop loss cluster, because this is a strong resistance, and then it should seal the deal, and then there'll be a trap at 1800-ish. We're only $14 away as well. So be careful, and I'll speak to you guys tomorrow.